Hi, Scorpio. So the easiest way to get into this is just to jump in. You're going to get mad. A lot. At a lot of people. Maybe especially at air signs. Could happen. Everything is like a cartoon. You're going to be really sharp. The things are just a little bit off right now, just in terms of how things are moving. And your vulnerability is exposed. And a lot of people, when they're vulnerable, they can be super empathic and connected and kind. And some people, when they feel vulnerable, they can be scared and fearful and retract. And yet others can be very aggressive and venomous. Let's see. King of Wands, 5 of Wands. Mars in Aries. You'll be able to see the cards normal in the second part. Don't worry. I'm just trying to make a point. This is the King of Wands and the 5 of Wands. Can you see? Okay. So the vulnerability doesn't stick around too long on the external. It is immediately translated into don't try it. 8 of Swords and the 2 of Pentacles. Going back and forth in the mind about something really, really, really important and not being able to find some firm footing on the matter. Again, vulnerability. Usually Scorpio knows exactly what to do, and if they don't, they can figure it out on their feet. But right now, 2 of Pentacles, 8 of Swords. I don't know if you've seen that combination in any of your readings before. It's a place that can easily feel like despair, but not quite, because you know it's you that's going back and forth. You know it's you that has to make a decision. That doesn't necessarily help. That can almost make it worse, because you know you're responsible. Does that make sense? And then we have this one card that fell on the table, and so 3 of Wands, the World, and the Fool. And so we see here that whatever you were struggling with mid-month, going into February actually, whatever decision you were having a hard time with is, well, it's just made easier. 3 of Wands, so 8 of Swords to 2 of Pentacles to 3 of Wands is reaching a decision. Perhaps not one you had even considered. It's finding a new way forward for an older problem. It's about finding a new way forward and taking a risk, love, marriage, all that on the other side of the 3 of Wands. So if the 8 of Swords is a personal situation, a love situation, you've been going back and forth about this, whether it's an air sign or a fire sign, and it's been very contentious. 5 of Wands. And you will feel like the 5 of Wands all the way through February. You got to be careful, because everything is going to set you off. And the irritability with you guys, when it comes on like a wave, it's really hard to push it back. So the only one essentially who can do it is you. So 8 of Swords is where you are the most vulnerable and therefore the most venomous. And I would say that's probably the first week and a half of the month. And then towards the 10th, you begin to deliberate in a new way. You begin to see a way out. If this is a family situation, you decide to move. If this is a relationship that's no longer working, you are leaving. If it's a relationship that you can't get away from, like you're stuck in an infinity loop, you find your way back around to it in a new way. And then towards the end of the month, if you've taken those risks and if your feelings were reciprocated, you have the joy that is the world and the fool. The world is a fool for you. So your vulnerability and your hopefully your perceived ability to keep it in check and not sting the people around you is rewarded with the world and the fool. Now, what if you go ahead and pop off and do sting people? The world and the fool are still there. Bottom of the deck, though, is the Queen of Swords and the Four of Cups. And to me, that says you'll end up regretting the harsher things you say in just a couple of weeks. As soon as we come into Pisces season, you'll regret it. You'll feel bad about it because you'll just realize that it was too harsh. And your argument here may be, well, people should know me well enough to know that I'm going to be super harsh right now, and so they should know better. Not that they should stay away, because that's not good either, but they should just be able to read me because I'm being very guarded right now. Yes, of course, that's to be expected. However, people generally fall short of what you expect, so this is nothing new for you. And also, it's about coming back to this responsibility of self. Part of what's making you vulnerable, because that's all we're talking about so far, is just, okay, you will feel vulnerable, that will make you venomous, that will make you difficult to be around, it'll make you say things that you might end up regretting later. Looks like for sure you'll end up regretting later because you'll feel like there's opportunities that passed you by in the interim and you will be right. But let's go one level under that. So what is causing the irritability is the vulnerability, but what's causing the vulnerability? Well, what's causing the vulnerability is just well, it's ripping the Band-Aid off of something. It's time with this Pisces Virgo placement that we're coming into with the sun and the moon, where the thing just gets done because it needs to be done. The thing gets closed up, the thing gets finished, or the thing gets begun. It's a real tower moment kind of energy. Pisceans have a way of turning the energy in the room around. You know, just by walking in, they can shift everything. And we shift to a place of much more feeling, a place of desire and creativity and 12th house based stuff. And it brings out a side of you that is so tender. And if we lived in a different world and a different time, maybe you could allow yourself this space to be tender, you know? But that's exactly why this background isn't all light and pink and cute and whatever, and why the video is grainy and why it looks so strange, because I want you to keep on your guard. If you take the time right now to indulge in how soft you feel, my fear is that someone is going to do the slightest little thing and you're going to react and, like, you know, cut their head off. I would much rather you not indulge the vulnerability as much and kind of keep it a little bit, you know, keep the awareness, so when someone does come at you, you're not a bleeding open wound. And I don't mean that you're a bleeding open wound because something's happened. I mean that you guys can just kind of be a bleeding open wound. When you start feeling, you really let that bitch go. You know, like, it's the floodgates open. And it's great because you have the Three of Wands, the World, the Fool. You know, bottom of the deck under the Four of Cups is the Star. And it is such a powerful season, Aquarius season, because the Star card just keeps coming up, in all these different decks. It just keeps coming up because the energy is really strong. And it's an energy that we all need. I think Aquarius season, essentially what it ends up being, is a time of reckoning where you go inside your head and you really figure out what it is that you want, what it is that you need, what what you've been lying to yourself about, what you can't live without, what you have to in some way pursue, what you don't want to pursue anymore, that maybe you've just been going on blind habit about because you're a fixed sign and you can just get stuck, you know, in certain things. It is a season towards the beginning of the month to go over all that and pull it out of the ground and look at it and say, okay, what is this? And then towards the end of the month, you get to sort through what you like and what you don't like and pick a new way forward. And that new way forward could be coming back around in a really wide orbit to something that you've been waiting to come back to, or that could be finally breaking into a new orbit. It's very hard to tell because new beginnings and endings are so similar for Scorpios. There's such a tinge of sadness to so many things with you guys because every new beginning is in some way a loss of feeling for something that is over. You know, it's very romantic. So things just get very real. And when things get very real, you go on high alert, red alert, be careful. And one of the things that can happen very easily is that people can step into those invisible laser barriers that you put up when you're feeling vulnerable, and unbeknownst to them, they can trip some serious alarms. That was really strange. I thought I heard something. So, all right. So let's look at these, and you'll see so easily, you know, it's all about your communication this month, and perhaps your disciplining of yourself when it comes to your communication, so you can take advantage of this pretty huge opportunity to fix something that's been running around in your head, to finally solve it, to find a way out, to reconnect, to disconnect. Like, it's internal work time, and it's not being done here, sacral chakra, like through the sexual energy kind of stuff. In that way, you've been brutally rebuffed in some way. This is all in the mind now. This is all like air stuff until we dive deep into Pisces later in the month. And when we get to Pisces, you'll know exactly what to do. But this period of like the star energy of being up here in the head and trying to figure things out in terms of like the mind, it can get really frustrating. It can be Eight of Swords, Two of Pentacles, like, is this how people live? What is this like weird, loopy, fixed air energy? I don't know. Why is it making me think about things that I don't even really care about? No, you do care about them. You just don't like to think about them. And you certainly don't like to feel about them, but you're really, really deluding yourself if you think you're not feeling it just because you're not consciously feeling it. So what Aquarius season makes you do is consciously become aware of things that you're feeling on a gut level, but you're keeping from yourself. And this inner conflict, Five of Wands, is reflected in your outside world, because the outside world begins to fractally respond to what you're putting out there, which is, there's this thing that I don't want to deal with, you know? So everything that shows up in your reality is like another iteration, another face of that thing that you don't want to deal with. And finally, Aquarius season is where you go, okay, you know what? Cool. Let me just deal with it then. Let me just deal with it. And you take your time to deliberate. Don't let it slip into a place of sadness. Don't let yourself be pulled into a sense of despair. You just need to think things through. Take a cue from the Aquarians that you know. Go into the mind. That doesn't have to be a sad, depressed state to be in the mind. You can use it positively. Use that time. Be careful. Be cognizant that the Eight of Swords energy is easy to slip into. Keep yourself from doing it. Don't vacillate too much. Trust not just your gut, but look at what your mind is saying to you. Let your mind show you all the different places where you are looping and you can't seem to get over some sticking point, and then deal with it. And so towards the end of the month, we go into Pisces season with this Three of Wands energy where you do deal with it. You figure a way out. You find a new direction. You either like wash your hands of something, or you're like, I'm going to totally pursue this thing. Come on, let's go. and then the World, and then the Fool, and then the Star. Be brave, be brave, be brave. Your destiny awaits, right? But be careful with your words and swinging this sword around, because you definitely have it, and you definitely have it out and ready. Right? The card under that, Ace of Swords. The card under that, look how I'm doing your extended. The card under that. The card under that is, okay, so it's Ace of Swords, the Moon, there's that Virgo moon, and then the Three of Swords. Especially around that moon, you have to be really careful. Because Virgo moon and the way you guys are feeling already, that's like, maybe you should just take a few days to yourself. Like, just, you know, for everybody, just. But it is right after that point that you're going to start really, like, the ideas start coming in. You start to feel better. You can see a way forward. You get clear. You let go. You attach. You get it moving. Good. I like seeing movement and progress in your videos, in your readings. I like even Five of Wands, fine, as long as something is happening. Like, when you guys get stuck in that rut, that Eight of Swords energy, oof, it just drives me crazy. Like, I can't. The way that woman is all tied up and stuff, like, no, bro. But again, like, look how much of a Gemini I am. No, bro, no. Like, so Two of Pentacles, we'll take it. Three of Wands, perfect. The World, the Fool, go. Follow your dreams. Get out of the Eight of Swords, you know. And be careful. This is deep now. Be careful that you don't work yourself out of this and finally find a way out just to do some other shit and do some left shit to somebody and end up back here in some other way. Because now you feel regretful of some new shit. You see what I'm saying? I'm not even trying to, like, be spicy. I'm just saying, like, it's obvious. It'll be obvious to you when you look at the cards. I couldn't love you more. I said I couldn't even say, like, I skipped over love. That's how much I love you guys, and I was thinking it so much. I couldn't love you more if I tried. See you in a second.
Hi, Scorpio. Communication. And the sword that you are carrying in Aquarius season, if you are dealing with an Aquarius as well, or a Libra or a Gemini, things are starting off very fiery. You are very much in your ego this month, and for good reason. There are some important decisions you have to make, and you have to look at them in terms of what's good for the self. However, doing this internal work, like we talked about, will cause a vulnerability, which will cause agitation within you. You may also feel isolated. You may find yourself feeling sad for no reason. But essentially, there are some big life choices in front of you this month, and you need the time and the space to figure them out without falling into this Eight of Swords despair, like we were saying earlier. One of the ways indicated here to work yourself out of it or ensure that you don't get stuck there, which is kind of what this is here, is to think outside of your present situation, but also outside of what you generally do. Scorpios do have a tendency to get stuck in a pattern and stay there. This could be a pattern of your own making. This could be a pattern that you can ascribe to someone who you love, that you are doing this for. There's, excuse me, I've noticed that obligation is a great motivator for Scorpios. So looking outside of those paradigms for something perhaps new, and new only in its intentionality, perhaps new only in that it's something for yourself. And that essentially is what Aquarius season is about, isn't it? It is about the self. It is about the self in relation to the greater consciousness, so the higher self, right? So the self meets the higher self, and what inevitably emerges from this union is great abundance. So towards the end of the month, things get very clear as soon as you decide to get very brave, and it opens a few doors simultaneously, or sequentially, like one after the other, the opportunities, one leads to another, and the key element of all three seems to be authenticity. Authenticity seems to be a theme this month, and that makes sense because Aquarians are either completely authentic or know how to be completely inauthentic. So really that is the tightrope we're walking. I think that's also part of where the agitation will come from. Sorry, camera froze. Okay, so authenticity seems to be the theme this month. And then I was saying, since I showed you some of the extended cards, let's go ahead and take a look at those, and then we'll go right into the extended, where I want to start clarifying. So what we've been doing is we've been going through and clarifying each card. But let's start here. So the fear is that you won't embrace the true self that comes from taking the braver choice, making the braver choice. And because if you are having a hard time making the braver choice, it might make you that much more combative, and you're going to be regretful. This cup here are the ones that you see, these three opportunities here. Later, you're going to be kicking yourself for not availing them because you were lost in yourself. The propensity to be sharp is very obvious here, especially because the full moon coming up is going to stress you a little bit. It's going to point out to you where you are not necessarily the happiest, where you've put a lot of work into things and have yet to see them come to fruition. But we'll go through and apply these cards to what's already on the table, and we'll clarify the rest of them. All right? What a reading. It's pretty though, huh? I'll see you in a minute, Scorpio. Love you.